Hi folks, and welcome to the Meaningful Money Podcast. This is session 355. This is the podcast dedicated to helping you put your finances in order. My name is Pete Matthew, and I'm going to share with you everything you need to know and everything you need to do to secure your financial future. I'm here to help you make sense of money. Here we go. Once again, great to have you with me. Hope you're settling in to the new year and all is proceeding well so far. I think a reminder of the basics is never a bad thing. No matter how advanced you are with your personal finances, no matter what life stage you're in, it's always a good idea to review the basic truths, in our case, about money. So that's what we're going to do today. 7 timeless truths that it's worth reminding ourselves of. Similar vein to last week, but rather than truths about you or me or us, sort of timeless, abstract, objective truths about money. So looking forward to getting into some of those. After we've done that, I'm going to read a review out as usual and talk about what we're going to be discussing next time. Very exciting next week. Stay tuned for that. But first, remember, this podcast continues to be brought to you with the help of my friends at 7 Investment Management. They've been helping me out here for ages, which shows real sort of stoic support on their part, and I'm really grateful to them for doing that. So please do check out what they're up to. They're at 7im.co.uk. That's the number 7im.co.uk. And don't forget the Meaningful Money branded self-investment platform that they've built. Everything you need to know about that is at meaningfulmoney.tv/podcastinvest. meaningfulmoney.tv/podcastinvest. Everything you need to know is there. Go check it out. Okay, I thought that sort of after last week's affirmations, sort my headphones out once again, I thought I could sort of follow on from those at the start of this new decade with a reminder of some basic truths about money. These are things that never grow old. They are truly timeless, and they apply no matter how long you've been playing this game of wealth building. Remember, notes, links from today's show, they're at the show notes. It's the only link you really need to remember. Everything else is there. meaningfulmoney.tv/session355. meaningfulmoney.tv/session355. Let's have a look at our 7 timeless truths about money. Okay. The first timeless truth, I've called it, your spending is your compass. When I'm writing this, I changed that about half a dozen times, but I think I'm happy with that now. You've often heard me say that when it comes to building wealth and being in control of our personal finances, we only really have a few levers that we can pull effectively. So much of what happens in markets, the general economy, politics, sort of geopolitical terrorism, all that sort of stuff. There's so much which is outside of our control that we need to focus on the stuff that we can affect, where we can make a difference. And of those few levers which are available to us, our spending is easily the most important, I think. Not only that, but it's also an indicator, admittedly a lagging indicator, of where our true priorities lie. Please note that's not a judgment or a criticism, right? If we're being intentional, just like we discussed last week, then our spending ought to be in line with our priorities. But it can also be a good feedback loop, right? To make sure that that really is the case. And this truth is so timeless. You know, we're talking about 7 timeless truths. This one is so timeless, it actually features in the words of Jesus in the Bible, Matthew 6:21, for those keeping notes. And he said there, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. You could easily reverse that and it would still be true. Wherever your heart truly lies, that's where you will focus your finances. So no matter what life stage you're in, keep an eye on your spending. Be proactive and intentional with it, and it will point you in the right direction. Or if you're unsure of that direction, then check your spending. Get your bearings, adjust course where necessary. Your spending is your compass. Number 2. Businesses and bricks are the best ways to build wealth. Right? Businesses and bricks are the best ways to build wealth. I can confidently predict that there will be more than 1,954 guaranteed ways to make money doing the rounds of the social media ads this year and every year after that. They will range from the obviously scammy stuff where it's like thinly veiled multi-level marketing type options that only seem to have got worse and more prevalent with the advent of the internet, to the more insidious, seemingly legitimate looking things like mini bonds. Remember London Capital and Finance from this time last year? That didn't end well. Lots of great promises about 8, 10, 12% interest rates. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. So we need to remind ourselves that when it comes to buying things, investing our money that will increase our wealth over time, really there are only two things that matter. And as my buddy Andy Hart calls them, they are businesses and bricks. That is equities or shares and property. Now, of course, there are other asset classes, main one being bonds, of course, not to be confused with mini bonds. Bonds are simply IOUs, loans to both governments and to companies. Just realized I moved my mic there and it just wobbled the camera. Not going to worry too much about it. So bonds are obviously the main other asset class, and yes, they do generally go up over time, but often not at a greater rate than inflation, so not in real terms. Gold is another major asset class that some people inexplicably try to get excited about. I don't really understand that. But of all the different asset classes available, equities and properties are by far the most consistent for building wealth. They are rock solid, reliable, given enough time. Note that, right? And obviously, you need to apply some good common sense. So, Chaz, well, shares are a brilliant asset class, but if you buy shares in one company and that company fails, then you will lose everything, right? Not exactly a rock-solid guarantee as just promised. But if you buy equities as a class by spreading your money around different markets, etc., all the stuff we talk about here all the time, then given enough time, you will always win. By the way, stay tuned next week if you need any convincing about this. I'm going to be interviewing probably the ultimate equities evangelist. More details shortly. Businesses and bricks, they each have their own advantages. Equities are easily traded, highly liquid, cheap to own. Properties can be and usually are bought with other people's money, so you can leverage to buy property, which accelerates your returns. Each obviously have their own disadvantages too. We've covered both in detail in other episodes. So for now, whenever you're tempted to think about something sort of over there, you know, grass is greener, all that sort of stuff, something over there might be better for your wealth building efforts than the sort of fairly boring equity portfolio or your buy-to-let property in Hull, be encouraged. You're already doing the best thing, right? Businesses and bricks, the best ways of building wealth. Number 3, your behavior will determine the level of your success. Yes, behavioral finance, had to get that in here. Bear in mind everything that I've just said about, say, equities and their guaranteed rise over time. That is, of course, true. If it wasn't true, I wouldn't have said it. It's true in the abstract, but we will never, ever be dealing in the abstract. We'll never be dealing in a perfect world with no external or internal factors. Instead, we bring our human failings, then they are legion. We bring those failings along for the journey. It's like sort of being in a car, driving a car and having somebody in the passenger seat occasionally try and grab the steering wheel or maybe yank up the handbrake while you're doing 70 miles an hour on a sweeping bend on the motorway. Not a great outcome generally. And the number of ways that we can potentially derail ourselves is just nuts. And it's a little bit depressing if we dwell on it. But it's something that we just have to come to terms with, acknowledge its existence, and then constantly be on our guard. So as I mentioned last week, we need to be continually learning about this stuff. A great place to start is the MyBee app on the iPhone. Apologies, Android users. Apparently a version is on the way for you. I'll link to the current version in the notes, but it will really give you some good insight into your own thought and behavior patterns as you play some carefully structured games. Also read The Behavioral Investor by Daniel Crosby, if you haven't already. I'll link to both the MyBee app and The Behavioral Investor in the show notes, okay? Okay, the link between behavior and success is long proven. No matter what the sphere of life you're in, just because I'm genetically inclined to put on weight doesn't mean that I'm bound to that fate. My behavior really does make all the difference, and it's the same with our financial fitness and health as well. Timeless truth number 4. All financial news is garbage and should be avoided. Okay, we've only just begun this new year. Already the headlines are coming in thick and fast. Here's a few. 10 stocks that will soar over the next decade. Why the FTSE 100 may hit 8,000 in January. Will the US strike on the Iranian general trigger the next global recession? For goodness sake, right? Probably the easiest behavior hack that any of us can employ is to stop reading financial news, in inverted commas, at the very least. Maybe even all news, I don't know. Paul Armson, who I interviewed quite a while ago now, he calls this financial pornography, in that it can offer something of a short-term thrill, but is ultimately not very deep, right? We might think that we can consume this stuff and be completely dispassionate about it, but it's hard to do that. If you're reading article after article after article that tells you a market crash is imminent, it's practically impossible, I think, for any normal person to completely silence that voice in our head that tempts us to sell out of our portfolio. It's like an alcoholic trying to beat their addiction while living upstairs from an off license. It's really hard. Sometimes we need to remove the temptations and the triggers from our lives completely, and financial news is just one easy way to do that. Be really, really careful what you read, watch, listen to. Its influence can be insidious, right? It can be really subtle, but it's always dangerous because of the way it makes us think. And when we start to think in the wrong way, we start to act in the wrong way. Silence the negative voices. Really important. Number 5, no one cares more about you than you, right? That's so true, isn't it? No one is more concerned with your own future success than you are. After all, you're the one who stands to benefit the most. Literally everyone else in your life will have a different agenda to you, right? To a greater or lesser extent, of course. Life partners can be on the same page, but even then, there's an entirely correct and natural part of each of us that thinks of ourselves first. So your partner is thinking of themselves as well as of you, right? That's just evolutionary programming, nothing we can or that we should want to do about that. Of course, that means that your future is yours alone to secure. You mustn't rely on anyone else more than you do on yourself. And that might mean some serious planning. You know, if you're thinking about a career break, maybe to bring up kids, or maybe there's a real mismatch in earnings between you and your partner, if that's applicable to you, you need to consider yourself in all financial decisions, even the joint ones, okay? Damn sure you can't rely on your employer. Most will just do what they have to do by law, not a lot else. Governments, of course, will offer mechanisms for savings. You've got to make the most of those. But what really matters is your own focus, your own action. So resolve that you'll look after number 1. Do what's necessary to fulfill that promise to yourself. No one cares more about your future than you. Number 6, timeless truth. Almost no mistake is catastrophic. Right? I get tons of emails every day from people saying, I've been listening to the podcast for months or even years. They've learned loads. Thanks, Pete. It's been great, really useful. And that's always good to hear. But then they'll follow that up with words to the effect of, but I just can't seem to press the button, start investing. I actually once spoke to a client. She instructed me to advise her. And behind her was an office full of books, financial books, many of them. She'd been reading for years. Right? She had a real grasp of everything that she needed to do, and yet she had held off investing, sitting on cash for years. Even after I had advised her, you should do A, B, and C, go do it now, she said that she would execute the advice herself, but she didn't. Right? Really, she should have paid me to execute that stuff for her. Right? And sometimes that's where an advisor can add value. They'll just get on and do it. What she lost? Well, actually, if she'd invested earlier, she wouldn't have lost anything. Pretty much everything she was thinking of investing in has risen over that time period. She has lost out by not investing. But even that lack of action is not going to be the end of the world by any means for her. She just needs to crack on now. There is pretty much nothing that you can do or not do that will completely spell disaster for your financial success. Yeah, we could all have started earlier. Yes, we could have not invested in Woodford funds. Yes, we could have, taken out that critical illness policy, which, would have paid off our mortgage in light of the diagnosis that we've now had. Most of us don't worry about the big stuff, right, such as never being able to work again, because it's unlikely to happen, apart from anything else. Remember that even if it did, an income protection policy would be a godsend in that space. The vast majority of questions I get are on actually relatively unimportant decisions, but people over fixate on them. Should I pay more into my pension or my ISA? Should I pay down my mortgage or add to my own investments? Should I put money for my kids in their name or in my own? Please, folks, try to stop sweating the small stuff. Action is what matters. Temporary indecision won't kill your chances of future financial success, but indefinite indecision and inertia will. Worry less about making mistakes and instead resolve to learn from the ones that you will inevitably make. Just accept it, right? And then get going, right? Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't let inertia rob you of progress. And remember that pretty much any decision you can make, even if you get it wrong, it isn't going to be catastrophic. Finally, success with money can be guaranteed. All right, it's true. Financial success is guaranteed if you follow 3 simple steps. 10 years of the Meaningful Money Project, 20 odd years as an advisor, have led me really to distill financial success into these 3 steps. Long-term listeners will know these. Number 1, spend less than you earn. Number 2, insure against disaster. And number 3, invest wisely. So, point 1 earlier on, your spending is the biggest area where you can impose control on your finances. Even those who are retired and enjoying their money need to exercise some control over their spending. For those of us who are building wealth still, it really is the most powerful lever we can pull, our spending. Insuring against disaster, step 2, takes care of the stuff that you can't control. And now, obviously, these things will have an impact on your financial future. Dying early, being unable to work due to accident or illness, it's obviously going to have implications. But those implications can be mitigated to some degree by a decent insurance program. Give the good people at Lifestage a call. They will talk you through all of this. They won't hard sell you. They are proper professional advisors, independent brokers, a brilliant, brilliant company. Tell them I sent you if you call them direct. The number at meaningfulmoney.tv/lifesearch will take you straight through to their senior advisors, right? Give them a ring. Put that protection plan in place. Finally, when we talk about investing wisely, step 3, that just means using pensions and ISAs, property too, if that's your thing, keeping costs low, using all the tax breaks available to you, spreading your money around, committing to increasing your savings rate regularly, automate where possible, don't meddle with it, try to time the markets, invest more when markets are down because shares are on sale. Really, there's nothing more to it than that, and anybody can get those things. And anybody who does those things consistently, week after week, month after month, year after year, is guaranteed success because it's only maths, right? Maths and time are the factors on your side when it comes to building wealth, and anybody can do it. It really isn't rocket science. And yet, it takes people like me banging on about it and all the other great content producers that are out there continually repeating this stuff because we're not taught them as young people. And there are so many other pressures encroaching on our lives that remove our focus away from those things. But actually, it should be encouraging that it really is this simple. I'm convinced literally anybody can do this. Yes, it's harder if you're on a low income. It's harder if you're a single parent or if you have a disability, but it is still possible. Financial success is there for the taking. Will you grab hold of it? 3 simple steps to success. Let me just scroll back up here and remind us of each of those 7 timeless truths. Your spending is your compass. Keep an eye on what you're spending your money on. It'll both give you a sense of where you're going, and if you focus on that area, you will force the issue. You'll show your money where it needs to go. Number 2, businesses and bricks. Equities and property are the best ways to build wealth. Number 3, your behavior will determine the level of your success. Behavioral finance in all its glory, a really important subject we need to familiarize ourselves with and continually learn. Number 4, all financial news is garbage and should be avoided. Number 5, nobody cares more about you than you. All right, so take control. Rely on yourself primarily. Number 6, almost no mistake that you can make will be catastrophic. Pretty much everything can be rebounded from. And then finally, success with money can be guaranteed with those 3 steps. Spend less than you earn, insure against disaster, and invest wisely. Really, that's it, folks. These things are timelessly true, okay? I love a good preach. You can tell my dad is a preacher sometimes, right? Fed up with these headphones, though. I know I've been saying that for years, but I really do need to change them. So let me know what you think, anyway, about these truths. Have you got any that you might live by, that you might want to add to the list? The show notes are at meaningfulmoney.tv/session355. meaningfulmoney.tv/session355. Leave me a comment there or under the video here on YouTube. I love to hear your questions and comments. Sometimes it takes me a while to get back, though, because there are lots of them these days. Quick review from Victor Nelson from here in the UK. Victor says, yes, on the money. Love listening to these podcasts, gives practical advice, and it's helping me to get a better understanding on what to do with my finances. Great stuff. Victor, thank you so much. Really appreciate you leaving that review. If you want to do the same, wherever you're listening to this, leave me a review if you can. All right, meaningfulmoney.tv/iTunes if you're of an Apple persuasion, but anywhere really helps. Keeps me near the top of the rankings. Quick reminder that the first phase of Meaningful Academy is now open to everyone, right? If you're looking to get started with your finances, the Financial Foundations phase, as we're calling it, is perfect for you. It covers everything from mindset and goal setting to setting and sticking to a budget, debt elimination, the basics of personal insurance and saving and investing, loads of video lessons, worksheets, calculators, everything you need to start your personal finance journey off on the right foot. Okay, it's my best thinking, and you can scour the internet for all this stuff. You can search Meaningful Money. Most of what I talk about in the academy is there, but for focused, sort of directed information about exactly what you need to do to get your finances off on the right foot, Meaningful Academy is the way to go. So head over to meaningfulacademy.com. All the information you need is about there. It goes into a bit more detail about all the modules. Don't forget, though, that as a podcast listener, you get 25% off. All right, can't say fairer than that. The coupon code you need is podcast25. All one word, no spaces. Podcast25 gets you 25% off the cost. Okay, meaningfulacademy.com. Cool. Next time, I'm going to be bringing you probably my favorite ever interview that I've done here on Meaningful Money. I'm interviewing the author of the best personal finance book ever written. How excited was I? All right. That book is called The Simple Path to Wealth. And yes, I'm going to be chatting with the man, the legend that is J.L. Collins next Wednesday, 15th of January, 2020. Can't wait to bring it to you. I know you're going to love it. Okay, folks, that's it for this week. Thank you so much. I feel like we're getting into the groove of 2020. Season 16 begins in February. So I got some good interviews for you coming up over the next 2-3 weeks, and looking forward to bringing you those. Comments, meaningfulmoney.tv/session355, and all the notes and stuff are there as well. All right, thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.